The White Room had no windows and only one door. Commander Lisa Morgan sat at a metal table that reflected the bright lights above. Her fingers drummed against the cold surface as she waited. Dr. Amy Chen sat beside her with a tablet in her hands. Both women wore dark blue uniforms with small badges that showed their ranks. The door opened with a soft hiss. 2 guards walked in first. Between them moved a figure that made Lisa hold her breath. Zarath Velkos was tall and thin like a tree branch. Her skin was pale blue and seemed to glow from inside. Long silver hair fell down her back like water. Her eyes were large and silver, too. She wore simple gray clothes that hung loose on her frame. The guards helped her sit in the chair across from Lisa. Zarath moved with grace, but Lisa could see her hands shake a little. The alien woman folded her long fingers together and looked down at the table. "Thank you for agreeing to this interview," Lisa said in a calm voice. "I am Commander Lisa Morgan. This is Dr. Amy Chen. We want to understand what happened during the war." Zarath lifted her head. When their eyes met, Lisa felt cold. Those silver eyes held pain that went deep. "I agreed, because your people said it would help prevent future wars," Zarath said. Her voice was soft like wind through leaves. "I hope that is true." Amy leaned forward a little. "We know this might be hard for you. Take your time. We can stop any time you need." Zarath nodded but did not smile. "Where do you want me to start?" "Tell us about before the war," Lisa said. "What did your people think of humans?" The alien woman was quiet for a long moment. She stared at her hands. "We thought you were young, new to space travel. Your ships were loud and clumsy. Your weapons were simple. We had been flying between stars for thousands of your years. We had fought many wars. We always won." "What changed?" Amy asked. "Everything," Zarath whispered. She reached for a glass of water with shaking fingers. "We studied your history before. We attacked. We saw your wars on Earth. They seemed so primitive. Humans fighting with metal sticks and throwing rocks. Even your modern weapons were basic compared to ours." Lisa felt her chest tighten. "What did your commanders tell you about fighting humans?" "They said it would be quick, clean. We had energy shields that could stop your bullets. Our ships could destroy yours from far away. Our weapons could cut through your armor like paper." Zarath took a sip of water. "Admiral Kethavar said we would win in 3 months. Maybe less." "But you didn't," Lisa said quietly. Zarath's hands started shaking harder. She put the glass down before she could drop it. "No, we did not win in 3 months. We did not win at all." Amy made notes on her tablet. "Tell us about the first battle." "Kepler Station," Zarath said without thinking. Then her whole body went stiff. "I should not have said that name so quickly. Even now, 15 years later, I remember it like it happened yesterday." "What made it so memorable?" Lisa asked. Zarath closed her silver eyes. "It was supposed to be simple. The station had maybe 200 humans on it. We brought 3 ships with 1,000 soldiers. The plan was to land, secure the station, and take prisoners. Show the humans that fighting us was useless." "What went wrong?" "Nothing went wrong at first. We landed exactly as planned. Our soldiers moved through the station halls. The humans fell back like we expected. We thought they were running away." Zarath opened her eyes and looked straight at Lisa. "They were not running away. They were leading us into a trap." Lisa felt her heart beat faster. "What kind of trap?" "The humans had turned their own station into a weapon. Every hallway had hidden explosives. Every room had some new danger. They used their own air vents to move around us. They came out of walls. They dropped from ceilings. They crawled through spaces too small for our soldiers." Amy looked up from her tablet. "How did they get explosives?" "They made them from cleaning supplies and machine parts. We learned later that humans can make weapons from almost anything. Your people are very creative that way." The word creative sounded like a curse when Zarath said it. "Were you there personally?" Lisa asked. Zarath nodded slowly. "I was with the command team. We stayed back at first, watching through cameras on our soldiers. Everything seemed normal until the humans started fighting back. Then nothing made sense anymore." "Can you be more specific?" Our soldiers wore armor that could stop explosions, but humans aimed for joints and weak spots we did not know we had. Our shields stopped energy weapons, but humans used old bullets and metal knives. They threw rocks. They hit us with pieces of metal torn from their own walls. Lisa tried to picture it. That sounds desperate. We thought so too. But looking back, I think they planned it that way. They wanted us to think. They were desperate and weak. While we felt sorry for them, they were studying how we moved, how we fought, how we thought. Amy stopped writing. You think they were learning about you during the battle? I know they were, Zarath said firmly. Every attack taught them something new. They saw how our shields worked and found ways around them. They watched how we communicated and started jamming our signals. By the end of the first day, they knew us better than we knew ourselves. Lisa felt cold again. How long did the battle last? 6 days. It should have taken 6 hours. Zarath picked up her water. Glass, but did not drink. On the first day, we lost 50 soldiers. On the second day, we lost 100. By the fourth day, our remaining soldiers refused to go into the station. What did your commanders do? They ordered a bombing from space. Blow up the whole station, and everyone on it. They said it was better than losing more of our people. Zarath's voice got even quieter. But the humans were not done teaching us lessons. What happened? They had somehow taken control of our ship's communication system. When Admiral Kethvar gave the order to fire, every human on the station heard it. They sent a message back to our ship. I will never forget what they said. Lisa waited, but Zarath just stared at the table. What did they say? Thank you for the warning. We are ready now. Zarath looked up with haunted eyes. Then they shot down our bombs with weapons they had built from our own equipment that we had dropped during the fighting. The room became very quiet. Lisa could hear her own breathing. Amy had stopped taking notes and was staring at Zarath. How? Amy finally asked. We never found out. When we sent teams to investigate, the humans were gone. The station was empty. They had escaped somehow while we were planning to destroy them. They left behind a message painted on the wall in our own language. What did it say? Zarath was quiet for a long time. When she spoke again, her voice was barely a whisper. It said we were welcome to try again any time we wanted. They would be waiting. Lisa felt her stomach turn cold. This was just the first battle of a 5-year war. Lisa poured fresh water into Zarath's glass. The alien woman's hands had not stopped shaking since she started talking about Kepler Station. Amy made gentle notes on her tablet while watching Zarath carefully. Would you like to take a break? Lisa asked. Zarath shook her head quickly. No. If I stop now, I might not be able to start again. Let me tell you about what happened next. About when we learned that Kepler Station was not unusual for humans. Take your time, Amy said softly. After Kepler Station, our commanders were angry. They said the humans had been lucky, that our soldiers had been careless. Admiral Kethvar ordered a full attack on human space. He wanted to hit 10 colonies at once to show them our power. Lisa felt her chest tighten. What was the target? Many places, but I was sent to observe the attack on Titan's Edge. It was a mining colony with maybe 5,000 humans. We brought 20 ships and 10,000 soldiers. The Admiral said we would crush them quickly and move on. Zarath drank some water with both hands to keep from spilling it. I was on the command ship with Colonel Veltar. He was my partner. We had fought together for many years. He was brave and smart and kind. The humans killed him on the 3rd day. Amy looked up from her tablet. I'm sorry for your loss. He died because we did not understand what humans could do to themselves, what they were willing to do. Zarath's silver eyes became distant. The attack started well. Our ships destroyed their defense platforms from long range. Their small fighters could not get close to us. We landed troops on the surface and began taking control of the mining facilities. What went wrong this time? Nothing went wrong. That was the problem. Everything went exactly as planned for the first day. The humans fell back to their underground shelters. Our soldiers secured the surface. We controlled their spaceport, their power plant, their communication centers. Colonel Veltar said it was almost too easy. Lisa waited for more. On the 2nd day, we started taking prisoners, human families who had run out of food and water. They seemed scared and helpless. Some of them were crying, children hiding behind their parents, old people who could barely walk. Colonel Veltar ordered our soldiers to be gentle with them. That sounds reasonable, Amy said. It was a trap, Zarath said flatly. The crying children had explosives hidden in their clothes. The old people who could barely walk were carrying poison gas in fake medicine bottles. The scared families were mapping our patrol routes and counting our soldiers. Lisa felt sick. Children? Human children are not like our young ones. Our children are kept safe and protected until they are old enough to make their own choices. Human children learn to fight almost as soon as they learn to walk. These children knew exactly what they were doing. Amy stopped writing. How old were they? Some were maybe 8 or 10 of your years. The youngest I saw was perhaps 6. She walked up to one of our soldiers and asked for food. When he bent down to help her, she activated a device that destroyed herself, the soldier, and 2 others nearby. The room became very quiet. Lisa could hear the air circulation system humming. The families with poison gas waited until they were in our medical centers. They pretended to be sick and then released the gas. We lost dozens of medical staff who were trying to help them. The humans died too, but they did not seem to care. How did your soldiers react? Lisa asked. They were confused and horrified. We are taught to protect the weak and innocent. But humans had no innocent ones. Every person we captured was a potential weapon. Colonel Veltar ordered our troops to treat all prisoners as dangerous. Zarath drank more water. Her hands were shaking worse now. That was when the real fighting started. The humans in the underground shelters began launching attacks, not just against our soldiers, but against their own facilities. They destroyed their own power plant to deny it to us. They collapsed their own mines to trap our troops underground. They poisoned their own water supply so we could not use it. They were willing to destroy their own colony? Amy asked. They were willing to destroy everything rather than let us have it. But that was not the worst part. The worst part was how they fought. Lisa leaned forward. What do you mean? Our soldiers are trained to fight with honor. We try to minimize casualties. We give enemies chances to surrender. We follow rules of war that have existed for thousands of years. Zarath's voice became harder. Humans follow no rules except winning. Can you give us an example? Captain Kate Rodriguez was in charge of human ground forces. She lost her left arm when one of our plasma cannons hit her position. Any civilized being would seek medical help or at least retreat. Captain Rodriguez tied a belt around the wound to stop the bleeding and kept fighting. That shows determination, Lisa said. She used her severed arm as a club to beat one of our soldiers to death, Zarath said quietly. Then she picked up his weapon and continued commanding her troops while bleeding everywhere. Our soldiers were so shocked they forgot to shoot at her. Amy made a note but said nothing. Specialist Megan Foster was trapped in a damaged section of the mining complex. No weapons, no way out, badly injured. She spent 6 hours rewiring the emergency systems to turn the life support into a weapon. When our soldiers found her hiding place, she filled the entire section with poisonous gas and then held her breath longer than should be possible. Did she survive? Yes. She killed 8 of our soldiers and walked out carrying their equipment. She was unconscious from the gas, but still alive. Our medics said any other species would have died in half that time. Zarath finished her water, and Lisa refilled it again. The fighting went on for weeks. Every day the humans showed us new ways to kill and be killed. They fought in zero gravity without protective suits. They used their own blood to short-circuit our electronics. They made weapons from kitchen utensils and children's toys. How did Colonel Veltar die? Amy asked gently. Zarath was quiet for a long moment. The humans had been planning something big. We could tell because they had stopped their random attacks and gone quiet. Colonel Veltar led a team to investigate their main shelter complex. Was it another trap? The humans had spent weeks preparing their final surprise. They had moved all their remaining civilians to the deepest part of the complex. Then they filled every level above with explosives made from mining equipment. Lisa felt her heart sink. They were going to collapse the whole complex. Not just collapse it. They were going to turn it into a giant bomb. The explosion would have destroyed everything for kilometers around, including our main base. It would have killed every human on the planet and most of our soldiers too. What stopped them? Nothing stopped them, Zarath said with empty eyes. Colonel Veltar discovered the plan and tried to evacuate our forces, but the humans set off their bomb while he was still in the complex, trying to save the civilians, Amy. looked confused. He was trying to save the human civilians? Yes. Even though they had been fighting us for weeks, even though they had killed so many of our soldiers, Colonel Veltar could not let innocent people die. He went into the complex to get them out. And the humans killed him for it? The humans killed everyone, Zarath whispered. Themselves, their children, their elderly, Colonel Veltar, and 50 of our soldiers. They chose death over surrender. They chose to kill their own families rather than let us capture them. Lisa stared at the table. How many humans died? 3,000. Almost everyone left on the planet. They built a bomb that could have destroyed a city and used it on themselves just to kill 50 of our soldiers. The room was completely silent, except for the air circulation system. That was when I first realized we were not fighting a normal enemy, Zarath continued. We were fighting a species that would rather die than lose. A species that would kill their own children to deny us a victory. A species that saw death as just another weapon to use against us. Amy set down her tablet. How did the other coalition forces react to this news? Many refused to believe it at first. They said the reports were exaggerated or misunderstood, but similar things were happening at every human colony we attacked. The humans were all fighting the same way. Like they had all agreed that losing was not an option, no matter what it cost. Lisa looked at Zarath's haunted expression. What did you think? I thought we had made a terrible mistake, Zarath said quietly. We had attacked a species that did not know how to surrender. A species that treated their own lives as weapons to use against enemies. A species that was willing to sacrifice everything just to hurt us. Did you tell your commanders this? I tried, but they said I was being emotional because of Colonel Veltar's death. They said humans were just desperate and would give up soon. They ordered more attacks on more colonies. Zarath reached for her water glass, but her hands were shaking too. Much to lift it. They were wrong. The humans never gave up. They just got more creative. Amy handed Zarath a fresh tissue. The alien woman had been crying without seeming to notice. Her silver tears left small stains on her gray clothes. Lisa waited patiently while Zarath wiped her eyes and took several deep breaths. Do you need to stop? Lisa asked again. No, Zarath said firmly. You need to understand what happened next. You need to know about New Geneva. Lisa had heard that name before in classified reports. It always appeared with heavy security markings and warnings about sensitive information. Tell us about New Geneva, Amy said gently. It was the first human colony we tried to take intact. No bombing from space, no destroying everything and starting over. High Command wanted to capture a working human settlement to study their technology and culture. Zarath drank some water and continued. New Geneva had maybe 50,000 humans. Families, workers, scientists, children. It was built on a planet with good air and water. The humans had been there for 30 years. They had farms, schools, hospitals, everything a normal colony needs. How many ships did you bring? 15 battle cruisers and 200 support ships. 50,000 soldiers. Admiral Kesara was in command. She was one of our best officers. Very smart, very careful, very experienced. Lisa made a mental note of the numbers. The coalition had brought an entire army to capture one human colony. The plan was to surround the planet and demand surrender. If they refused, we would land troops and take control piece by piece. We had done this to dozens of other species. It always worked within a few days. But not with humans, Amy said. The humans sent a message as soon as our ships arrived. Just 3 words. Come and take it. Zarath's voice became bitter. Admiral Kesara thought they were being brave but stupid. She ordered a demonstration bombing of an empty area near their capital city. Did that change their minds? They sent another message. This one was longer. It said they had studied our other attacks and were ready for a long fight. They thanked us for the warning and said they were looking forward to the challenge. Lisa felt cold. They were looking forward to it? We thought it was just empty words to boost morale. Admiral Kesara began the siege. Our ships surrounded the planet and started bombing military targets. We expected them to surrender when they saw how hopeless their situation was. How long did the siege last? 6 months, Zarath said quietly. 6 months of constant bombardment. We destroyed their spaceport on the first day. their military bases on the second day, their factories and power plants by the end of the first week. Amy looked up from her notes. What did the humans do? They moved underground, into tunnels and caves and basements. They took apart their own machinery and moved it piece by piece to hidden locations. Within days, they had rebuilt their entire civilization below ground. That must have been difficult. It should have been impossible, moving a city's worth of people and equipment underground in just a few days. But humans worked together in ways we had never seen. Every person had a job. Every family had a role. Even small children were carrying supplies and helping to dig tunnels. Zarath paused to wipe her eyes again. We could have bombed the underground areas too, collapsed the tunnels and buried them all. But Admiral Kessara wanted prisoners and information. She ordered ground troops to go down and force them to surrender. What happened to the ground troops? The humans had turned the underground into a maze. Every tunnel led to 3 more tunnels. Every room had 5 different exits. Our soldiers got lost within hours. The humans knew every passage and could move around us like ghosts. Lisa tried to picture it. Were they fighting back? Not at first. They would just disappear whenever our soldiers came near. We would find empty rooms with signs that people had been there moments before. Hot food still cooking. Children's toys left on the floor, but no humans anywhere. That must have been frustrating. It was terrifying, Zarath corrected. Our soldiers were trained to fight enemies they could see. Being underground in the dark, chasing people who vanished like smoke, it drove some of them to panic. Amy made careful notes. How did the humans get food and supplies? We never figured that out completely. We had destroyed everything on the surface and blocked all their supply routes. But somehow they kept finding food, water, medicine, everything they needed. Maybe they had stockpiled supplies? For 6 months? For 50,000 people? Impossible. We think they were growing food in hidden underground farms, making medicine from plants and chemicals they found, building new equipment from salvaged materials. Zarath's hand started shaking again as she remembered. The worst part was that they seemed happy. We intercepted their communication sometimes. Instead of hearing fear and despair, we heard them singing, telling stories, celebrating birthdays and anniversaries like nothing was wrong. Lisa felt her stomach turn. While being bombed every day for months. We would hit their positions with enough firepower to level mountains. An hour later, we would hear them laughing and making jokes about near misses. How did your soldiers react to this? Many of them started having nightmares. They said the humans were not natural, that no living beings could be so cheerful while being hunted underground like animals. Amy looked concerned. Did this affect their performance? Admiral Kessara began receiving reports that her soldiers were afraid to go underground. They said the tunnels felt haunted, that they could hear human children singing in the darkness but could never find them. Were the children actually singing? Yes. We have recordings. Human children singing songs about brave warriors and distant homes while explosions shook the earth above their heads. Some of our soldiers broke down completely after hearing it. Zarath finished her water again and Lisa refilled it. Things got worse when the humans started fighting back, not with big attacks or dramatic battles, just small things that made our soldiers feel helpless and foolish. What kind of small things? Our soldiers would wake up and find their equipment had been stolen while they slept. Food supplies would disappear from locked storage areas. Vehicles would break down because someone had removed tiny but important parts. Sabotage? Sabotage done by people who could walk through our security like it did not exist. We increased patrols and posted more guards. The humans stole more things. We set up motion sensors and cameras. The humans disabled them and left. Pictures of themselves making funny faces. Lisa could not help feeling a little impressed. They were taunting you? Colonel Beth Turner was the human military leader. She would send messages to Admiral Kessara every few days, always polite and friendly, asking how our soldiers were feeling, offering to trade supplies if we needed anything. That sounds almost kind. She was mocking us, Zarath said firmly, showing us that humans could do whatever they wanted while we could do nothing to stop them. Each message included details about our own operations that only someone inside our command structure should have known. Amy looked puzzled. You think they had infiltrated your forces? We never found any spies, but somehow the humans knew everything we were planning before we did it. When we planned to attack the north tunnels, they would already be gone. When we set traps in the south, they would avoid them completely. Maybe they were just good at reading your patterns? Maybe. Or maybe humans are better at learning and adapting than we wanted to admit. Zareth was quiet for a moment, staring at her hands. The breaking point came during the 4th month. One of our patrols found a group of human children who seemed to be lost and scared. The soldiers brought them back to base for food and medical care. Lisa felt dread building in her chest. What happened? The children were sweet and grateful. They drew pictures for the soldiers and sang songs from their home planet. They seemed so innocent and harmless that even Admiral Kessara visited them. But they were not innocent? They were exactly what they appeared to be. Normal children who missed their families and were scared of the war. That was what made it so horrible. Amy frowned. I don't understand. The children had been sent by their parents to gather information, not as spies or soldiers, but as children doing what their families asked them to do. They talked about everything they saw and heard, the way children always do. And their parents used that information. 3 days later, humans destroyed our main ammunition depot using explosives placed in exactly the right spots to cause maximum damage. They had learned everything they needed to know from innocent children just talking about their day. Lisa felt sick. The humans used their own children as intelligence assets. Not used. Trusted. The children knew exactly what they were doing and why. They were proud to help their families and their people. They saw it as a game and an adventure. What happened to them? Admiral Kessara was so angry that she ordered them sent back to their parents immediately. The children thanked our soldiers for their kindness and walked away into the tunnels like they were going home from school. Zareth wiped her eyes again. That night, Admiral Kessara was found in her quarters, rocking back and forth and crying. She kept saying that fighting humans was like fighting an entire species of monsters who looked like innocent families. Was she removed from command? She requested removal herself. She said she could not continue a war against people who could turn anything, even children's love for their parents, into a weapon. The room was very quiet. The siege continued under a new commander, but the damage was done. Word spread through our forces that humans were not just dangerous fighters. They were a species that had no separation between civilian and military, between innocent and guilty, between normal life and warfare. How did it finally end? The humans ended it, Zareth said simply. After 6 months underground, they launched a coordinated attack against our entire fleet using weapons they had built from salvaged materials and stolen supplies. They won? They did not just win. They captured 3 of our ships intact and forced the rest to retreat. Then they sent us a message thanking us for the interesting challenge and inviting us to try again anytime we wanted more practice. Lisa stared at Zareth. They were still being polite? Always polite. Always friendly. Always absolutely terrifying, Zareth whispered. That was when I knew we were going to lose this war. The lights in the interview room seemed dimmer now. Lisa had turned them down when she noticed Zareth squinting. The alien woman looked exhausted but determined to continue. Amy had filled several pages with notes and was starting a new tablet. You said that was when you knew you would lose, Lisa said. But the war continued for several more years. 3 more years, Zareth confirmed. 3 years where everything changed. The humans stopped defending their colonies and started hunting us. Amy looked up. Hunting? Before New Geneva, humans fought us when we attacked them. After New Geneva, they came looking for us. They stopped waiting for us to bring the war to them and started bringing the war to us. Lisa felt her pulse quicken. How? Major Claire Thompson led the first human hunting team. 50 soldiers in 3 small ships. They attacked one of our supply convoys in deep space, captured the supplies, and disappeared before our warships could respond. That sounds like normal raiding. Normal raiding is when you attack supply lines to weaken an enemy. This was different. Major Thompson's team did not just take our supplies. They studied them, learned how they worked, and then used them against us in ways we never expected. Zareth drank some water and continued. They captured one of our communication devices and somehow learned to speak our language perfectly in just a few weeks. Then they started sending false orders to our ships. False orders? Major Thompson would contact our patrols and tell them to go to different locations for emergency missions. Our soldiers would follow the orders because they sounded official and used all the right codes. Amy frowned. How did she get the codes? We never found out. But soon, our ships were flying all over the galaxy chasing fake emergencies while human. Teams stole equipment and supplies from undefended bases. Did your command catch on? Eventually. But by then, the humans had learned so much about our operations that they could predict our movements better than we could. When we tried to set traps for them, they would avoid them completely. When we changed our codes, they would break the new ones within days. Lisa leaned forward. How many humans were doing this? We thought it was just Major Thompson's team at first. Then we realized there were dozens of human hunting groups operating across Coalition space. Maybe hundreds. Hundreds of teams, each one working independently but somehow coordinating their attacks perfectly. They would hit multiple targets at the same time, thousands of light years apart, in ways that suggested they were all following the same master plan. Zareth's hands were shaking again. Sergeant Kelly Davis was a human sniper who specialized in long-range assassination. She could kill our officers from distances that should have been impossible with the weapons she was using. What made her so effective? She understood our psychology better than we understood it ourselves. She knew exactly which officers to target to cause maximum confusion and fear. Not always the highest-ranking ones, but the ones whose deaths would hurt morale the most. Amy made notes quickly. Can you give us an example? Commander Yethgol was a popular officer who had never lost a battle. His soldiers trusted him completely. Sergeant Davis killed him during a routine inspection of a captured human facility. How? She had hidden inside the facility for weeks, waiting for the right target. When Commander Yethgol arrived, she shot him from a distance of over 2 kilometers using a rifle she had built from spare parts. Lisa tried to picture it. 2 kilometers? Through 3 walls and a radiation storm that should have made such a shot impossible. Our investigation team found her hiding spot and realized she had been living there for almost a month, studying our patrol patterns and waiting for someone important to visit. What happened to his soldiers after he died? They fell apart. These were experienced warriors who had fought many battles, but losing their commander in such an impossible way broke their spirit. They began seeing human snipers everywhere, even when none were present. Zareth wiped her eyes. Tech specialist Robin Lee was even worse than the snipers. She could turn our own technology against us in ways that seemed like magic. What did she do? She found ways to hack into our ship computers from the outside, not by connecting cables or planting devices, but by using signals that somehow made our own systems work for her instead of us. Amy looked confused. How is that possible? We never figured it out. One day our ships would be working normally. The next day they would refuse to follow orders, or they would start broadcasting human music on all frequencies, or their weapons would target each other instead of enemies. Did she work alone? As far as we know. But the effects spread from ship to ship like a disease. Once Robin Lee had infected one computer system, it would somehow infect others that came near it. Lisa felt a chill. Your ships were turning against you? Not just ships. Ground vehicles, communication networks, even the life support systems in our bases. Anything with a computer could suddenly start working for humans instead of us. How did your forces respond? Panic. Many units stopped using their advanced equipment and went back to older, simpler technology. But that made them easy targets for human conventional weapons. Zareth finished her water and sat quietly for a moment. The worst part was not knowing where the humans would strike next. They could be anywhere, disguised as anyone, using our own equipment against us. Disguised as anyone? Human Special Forces teams learned to impersonate Coalition personnel perfectly. They would walk into our bases wearing stolen uniforms and speaking our languages like natives. Amy made more notes. How did they learn your languages so quickly? That was another mystery. Humans seemed to have a gift for learning new languages and customs. Within months of first contact, some of them could pass for Coalition citizens. Did they cause much damage this way? Major Thompson once walked into our regional command center disguised as a supply officer. She spent 3 days there, eating in our cafeteria and attending our briefings before anyone realized she was human. Lisa stared. 3 days? She gathered detailed information about our defensive plans and troop movements. When she left, she took several important prisoners with her by convincing them they were being transferred to a new assignment. How did she convince coalition officers to go with her? She had forged transfer orders that looked completely authentic. Our own security protocols worked in her favor because everyone assumed the orders must be real if she had gotten past the guards. Zarath's voice became very quiet. By the 4th year of the war, our soldiers were afraid to trust anyone or anything. They would shoot at their own comrades if they acted suspiciously. They would refuse to use equipment that had been out of their sight for even a few minutes. The humans were winning through psychological warfare. They were winning because they understood something we did not. War is not just about ships and weapons and battles. War is about breaking the enemy's will to fight. Amy looked up from her tablet. Is that what they were trying to do? Every human operation was designed to make us feel helpless and confused. They did not just want to defeat us in battle, they wanted us to defeat ourselves through fear and mistrust. Did it work? By the end of the 4th year, coalition forces were spending more time guarding against human infiltration than actually fighting. Our soldiers were exhausted from constantly watching for enemies who might be anywhere. Lisa felt her chest tighten. What was the final straw? Admiral Zethicol was our supreme commander, the most important military leader in coalition space. He was protected by thousands of guards and lived on a fortress station that was supposed to be impregnable. What happened to him? One morning, he woke up in his private quarters to find a human woman sitting in his chair, drinking his personal tea blend. Amy stopped writing. How did she get in? We never found out. Major Thompson introduced herself politely and explained that she had come to discuss terms for coalition surrender. She was alone, completely alone, in the most secure facility in coalition space, having tea with our supreme commander like they were old friends meeting for lunch. Zarath's voice became even quieter. Admiral Zethcol asked her how she had gotten past all the security. Major Thompson smiled and said that humans had been studying coalition security for years and found it quite easy to understand. What did she want? She gave Admiral Zethcol a choice. The coalition could surrender now and negotiate a peace treaty, or the humans would continue hunting coalition leaders until there were none left. Did she threaten him? She did not need to. Her presence in his private quarters was threat enough. If she could reach him, she could reach anyone. If she could sit in his chair drinking his tea, she could have done anything she wanted to him. Lisa felt cold. What did the Admiral do? He asked Major Thompson how he could trust humans to honor a peace treaty. She said he could trust them, the same way they had learned to trust coalition promises during 4 years of war. What did she mean? She meant that humans had been keeping track of every broken promise, every violated treaty, every act of treachery the coalition had committed during the war, and that humans remembered everything. Zarath wiped her eyes again. Admiral Zethcol realized that if humans could infiltrate his personal quarters, they probably knew everything about coalition operations. Every plan, every secret, every weakness. So, he agreed to surrender? He agreed to meet with human negotiators to discuss terms. But the war continued for several more months while both sides prepared for peace talks. Amy looked puzzled. Why did it take so long? Because the humans were not finished teaching us lessons, Zarath said with haunted eyes. They wanted to make sure we understood exactly who had won and why. The interview room felt smaller now. Lisa had been listening to Zarath for hours and could feel the weight of every story. Amy had filled 3 tablets with notes and was reaching for a 4th. Zarath sat very still, her silver eyes focused on something far away. Tell us about the end, Lisa said gently. The end came at the Battle of Titan's Gate, Zarath replied. Admiral Grace Parker commanded the human fleet. 200 ships against our remaining 800 vessels. The humans were badly outnumbered. We thought so. Admiral Zethcol had agreed to peace talks, but he wanted to win one final victory to strengthen his negotiating position. He gathered every available ship for one last battle. Amy looked up from her notes. What was the human response? Admiral Parker sent a message to all coalition ships. She thanked us for gathering our entire fleet in one place and said it would make things much easier for her. Lisa felt her stomach tighten. She was confident about fighting against those odds. She seemed almost amused. Her message included detailed information about our fleet composition, our battle plans, and even the personal histories of our commanding officers. How could she know all that? We found out later that humans had been intercepting and decoding our communications for years. Every message we sent, every order we gave, every secret we thought we were keeping, the humans had been reading it all. Zareth drank some water with shaking hands. The battle began with our ships in perfect formation, following tried and tested tactics that had won us hundreds of victories against other species. What went wrong? Nothing went wrong with our tactics. They were flawless. But Admiral Parker was not using traditional tactics. She was using our own tactics against us in ways we had never imagined. Amy frowned. How? Human ships moved exactly like coalition ships, used exactly the same formations and strategies, but somehow turned all of our strengths into weaknesses. Can you be more specific? Our fleet relied on tight coordination between ships. Every vessel had a specific role and position. Admiral Parker used this against us by jamming communications between specific ships at exactly the right moments. Lisa tried to picture it. So, your ships could not coordinate? Worse than that. They were still following their original orders, but without knowing what the other ships were doing. Ships that were supposed to support each other ended up getting in each other's way. That sounds like chaos. It was controlled chaos. Admiral Parker knew exactly which ships to isolate and when. She had studied our fleet formation so thoroughly that she could predict our movements better than our own admirals could. Zareth wiped her eyes. But the real shock came when we realized that Admiral Parker was not just reacting to our tactics. She was controlling them. Amy stopped writing. Controlling them how? Human ships had been sending false signals that looked like legitimate coalition communications. Our fleet was following orders that came from Admiral Parker, thinking they came from Admiral Zethkol. She was commanding both fleets? For most of the battle, yes. Our ships would receive orders to move to new positions or change targets, and they would obey because the orders used the correct codes and protocols. Lisa felt cold. How long had the humans been able to do this? We think they had been intercepting and controlling our communications since the second year of the war. Every major battle, every strategic decision, every tactical move, the humans had been influencing or controlling all of it. You mean... I mean the coalition had not been fighting a war against humans. We had been fighting a war that humans were directing. They let us win small victories to keep us confident, while steering us toward larger defeats. Zareth's voice became very quiet. Admiral Parker did not just defeat our fleet at Titan's Gate. She destroyed it so completely and efficiently that our surviving officers realized they had never been in control of anything. How many coalition ships survived? 53 out of 800. All of them were ships that Admiral Parker chose to spare, not ships that fought their way out. Amy made careful notes. Why did she spare them? To carry the message back to coalition space, to tell everyone what had happened and who was really in charge. Lisa stared at Zareth. The humans wanted you to know how completely you had been defeated. They wanted us to understand that the entire war had been a lesson. A demonstration of what humans could do when they decided to teach someone about the consequences of starting fights. What happened next? The peace talks began immediately. President Hannah Clark represented humanity. She was polite, friendly, and absolutely terrifying. How so? She knew everything about coalition politics, economics, military capabilities, and strategic weaknesses. She could discuss the personal lives of coalition leaders, quote from classified documents, and predict our negotiating strategies before we made them. Zareth finished her water and continued. President Clark offered terms that seemed generous at first glance. No occupation of coalition worlds, no war reparations, no punishment of coalition leaders. That does sound generous. It was a trap disguised as mercy. The terms gave humans everything they wanted while making it look like they were being kind to defeated enemies. Amy looked confused. What did the humans actually get? Access to all coalition technology and scientific research. Trading rights in coalition space. Permanent human observers in coalition government. Most importantly, they got us to agree that any future conflicts would be resolved through human arbitration. They made themselves the judges of future disputes? They made themselves the ultimate authority in this entire region of space. Any species that has a disagreement with neighbors must ask humans to settle it. Any trade disputes, territorial claims, or military conflicts, everything goes through human courts now. Lisa felt the implications sinking in. So humans control the entire coalition without officially ruling it? Exactly. President Clark smiled when she explained this to our negotiators. She said humans preferred to lead by example rather than by force, but the result was the same. How did coalition leaders react? They had no choice but to agree. Admiral Parker had proven that human military forces could destroy any coalition fleet anytime they wanted. President Clark had proven that humans understood coalition politics better than coalition politicians did. Zarath's voice became barely a whisper. But the most frightening part was what President Clark said about the future. What did she say? She said the war had been a valuable learning experience for humanity. That fighting the coalition had taught humans important lessons about dealing with other species in space. Amy looked up sharply. Learning experience? She said humans were grateful for the opportunity to test their abilities against a sophisticated opponent, that the coalition had helped humans understand their own potential. Lisa felt her blood go cold. She was thanking you for teaching humans how to fight galactic wars? She was thanking us for being practice targets, for giving humans a chance to develop strategies and tactics for dealing with any species they might encounter in the future. What did she mean by that? She meant that humans had not been fighting for survival or territory or resources. They had been fighting to learn. Every battle, every strategy, every technique humans used against us was really preparation for bigger conflicts against more dangerous enemies. Zarath started crying again. The coalition was never the real enemy. We were just the first test. Humans used our war to prepare themselves for whatever else might be out there in the galaxy. Amy set down her tablet. Are you saying humans planned this from the beginning? I am saying that humans turned our invasion into their education. They let us attack them so they could learn how to fight galactic wars. They let us hurt them so they could develop weapons and tactics for future conflicts. Against who? Against anyone who might threaten them in the future. President Clark made it clear that humans now consider themselves the defenders of this entire region of space. Lisa stared at the table. Defenders against what? Against whatever might come from outside our region. President Clark said the galaxy is a big place with many dangerous species. She said humans wanted to be ready for anything they might encounter. So, the Coalition War was preparation? The Coalition War was humans learning how to protect themselves and their neighbors from external threats. We taught them everything they needed to know about fighting advanced galactic civilizations. Zarath wiped her eyes and looked directly at Lisa. Your species did not win that war through brutality or luck or determination. You won because you are natural strategists who can learn from any situation and turn any disadvantage into an advantage. What makes you think that? Because even now, 15 years after the war ended, humans are still learning. Your people study our technology, our culture, our history, our psychology. You understand us better than we understand ourselves. Amy made a final note. Is that why you agreed to this interview? I agreed because I wanted someone to know the truth about what humans are capable of. Your species is not just another civilization that got lucky in a war. You are predators who specialize in hunting other predators. Lisa felt her chest tighten. Predators! You hunt information, strategies, weaknesses, opportunities. You turn every enemy into a teacher and every conflict into a lesson. You made the coalition defeat itself while thinking it was fighting for survival. Do you think humans are dangerous? I think humans are the most dangerous species in the galaxy because you do not look dangerous. You appear friendly, curious, helpful, generous. But underneath all of that, you are always watching, always learning, always preparing for the next challenge. Zarath stood up slowly. Her legs were shaking. The coalition attacked you because we thought you were weak and primitive. We learned, too late, that humans are neither weak nor primitive. You are something much worse. What are we? You are a species that can turn any attack into an education, any enemy into a teacher, and any defeat into preparation for future victory. You are a species that can make friends with people while secretly learning how to destroy them if necessary. Lisa and Amy sat in stunned silence. The real horror of fighting humans is not that you are cruel or violent. The real horror is that you are kind and friendly while being absolutely ruthless about protecting what you care about. Zarath walked toward the door, then stopped and looked back. I have nightmares every night about human children singing in dark tunnels while bombs exploded above their heads. Not because they were scared, but because they were not scared. Because they knew their parents had everything under control. Is there anything else you want to tell us? Yes, Zarath said quietly. Never let your people forget what they are capable of, and never let them think that being friendly and peaceful means being weak or vulnerable. Why? Because somewhere in this galaxy, there might be a species even more dangerous than humans, and when you meet them, you will need to remember every lesson you learned from fighting us. The door closed behind her with a soft hiss, leaving Lisa and Amy alone with the terrible knowledge of what their species had done and what they might need to do again someday. Lisa looked at the recording device on the table and reached over to turn it off. The red light went dark, but she knew the words would echo in her mind forever. Outside the interview room, the galaxy continued spinning, unaware that the most dangerous predators in known space looked exactly like helpful, curious, friendly neighbors who just wanted to learn about everything they encountered. Amy gathered her tablets and stood up slowly. What do we do with this information? Lisa sealed the recording in a classified container. We make sure the right people understand what we learned today, and we pray we never have to use those lessons again. But even as she said it, Lisa knew that somewhere in human space, strategists and planners were already studying the interview transcript and asking themselves what other species might be out there waiting to test humanity's resolve. The war with the Coalition was over, but humanity's education in galactic survival had only just begun.